Yeah. I actually tell Whitaker to sit down. Sit down, Whitaker. Welcome. Thank you for showing. I trust you all had pleasant flights in, or at least I hope you did. Neeraj, I'm not quite sure that you had a pleasant flight in, but nevertheless. Yeah. Just wanted to do the usual this morning and do a little bit of a kickoff. Talk about some of the things that have gone on since the last time we have met. Talk a little bit about the agenda. Talk about some open items that we need to discuss and at least make sure that you folks are aware of. And then we will start moving into some of the content for the day. Right off the bat, just to give you an overview, the things we're going to talk about primarily over the next 2 days, using the preferred nomenclature, we are talking mostly about informational topics this time around. That is to say, a lot of these projects have been, for example, Longhorn, have been in progress for quite a while. So these are more informational and making sure that you folks understand some of the rationale behind some of the things that we're doing, as opposed to something that is actively seeking feedback. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be feedback that is valid, but in some of these topics, there won't be things that are necessarily actionable from a feedback perspective, when we just put it that way. The other thing, you may have wondered what my issue was when I was sending out some of my emails about the schedule, and I'll do a quick dive into that. About 2 or 3 months ago, things were looking really good from a schedule perspective. I had people lined up. I had all the right people lined up. Subject matter was locked down. And as you know, I usually like to get into a situation where I can send a schedule out about 2 weeks in advance so you people know what we're going to be talking about and things of that nature. So around about 2 weeks ago, just when I was getting ready to hit send, I started getting a lot of decline in Schedule Plus, and by executive fiat, we had some VPs that started just calling mandatory meetings for all their senior folks. So every time a decline came in, my stomach acid went up by a commensurate amount. So giving that, that was sort of the source of some of my strange emails. However, we did manage to get a lot of those previous commitments honored. And we haven't, as a result, the schedule hasn't suffered any of it as from any absences or anything like that. So I think we're looking good in terms of a schedule. But I'm sorry I did not give you the opportunity to at least see the schedule earlier on. Like I said, it was sort of touch and go here for me a little while. Again, back to the notion of informational versus feedback. We were very light in the pre-reading this time around. One of the things that we did want to slot into the discussion was sort of a final briefing on the Microsoft privacy standard and how that's being integrated into the SDL. We heard a lot of feedback from the board on, okay, yeah, this is great, but we want to see it and we want to see it codified into something that's going to be, pushed out Microsoft-wide. So Jeff Friedberg will be coming back for a short session, about an hour and a half, to talk about those particular efforts and where they stand. I'll pop over to the agenda here shortly. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the miscellaneous items. First off, Scott Charney. I've had some questions. We've got some questions with regards to Scott and his promotion and what that means. And let me start off by saying Scott will be here a little bit later. He had to take one of his family members to the doctor this morning, so he will be coming in, I don't know, probably in 45 minutes or so. And it might be good to let him talk about it, but he says, look, just tell him nothing's really changed other than the fact I've got a new title. So I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but Peter can probably tell me one way or the other whether I'm wrong. I get the sense that while the mission hasn't changed per se, he's still strategically the man to go to with regards to our TWC efforts. It's not like someone has moved a division under him or something of that nature. He's still basically in charge of our thinking and our strategic efforts with regards to TWC. It's my feeling and understanding that having the VP nom de guerre, so to speak, gets things done a little bit faster than perhaps it was before. I know it's helped me out on a couple of occasions, so at least there's some network benefit to his promotion. But
has he been promoted out of having to attend this meeting?
No.
No, as a matter of fact, he hasn't. Yeah. There's some things he just can't get away from. So in any case, though, if you got any questions when he gets here or over the course of lunch or the breaks or anything like that, if you got any questions on if there's anything that's changed, please feel free to grab him and chat with him about that. Next thing to talk about, which sort of hit me as a pretty big shock, was the fact that in July we will have our 3-year anniversary as a board. That is to say, we are coming up on the end of the initial life of the board as it was initially envisioned. So what that means is I need to get busy and start talking with you folks about what's the next version of the board going to look like, and start talking about things like contract renegotiations and all of that kind of stuff. So this just, it's sort of a heads up, but every 6 months, has been coming and going and coming and going. And I got this little tickler from LCA saying, oh, by the way, you guys might want to be aware of this. And it was like, wow, okay. Time flies when you're having fun. So you can expect that between now and the next meeting, and probably shortly thereafter, I will be working on trying to make sure that we get NDAs and consulting agreements and things like that back in place. We'll take a look at the existing agreement. If it's fine, we'll leave it the way it is. If there are things that need to be changed because of any sort of legal moves that have gone on, we'll make sure that those are taken care of. But I just wanted to let you know I'm coming up on 3 years. So that's one thing that we need to start working on.
Dave, are you going to revisit board membership as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that is something that is open for discussion. And actually, there's another portion that I want to play into that one as well. Yeah, exactly. This will turn into the survivor aspect here, and so we'll allow you folks to vote people off the island as long as it's not Scott, Peter, and myself. We'll leave Lipner, but we will sit there and we will talk about. I will probably approach you all individually with regards to your desire to continue to serve on the board and/or whether or not you have prior commitments or things or other competing commitments that may wind up affecting things. We will take a look at some of if there are any areas that we're missing from in terms of technology or policy knowledge or things like that. And one of the other things that we'll also be taking a look at is something along the lines of making sure that we get reasonable geographic distribution as well. Which is a good segue into the next bullet up here. You have heard me talk a number of times, well, at least a couple of times, with regards to the lack of greater Asia-Pacific representation on the board. And we are running into some particularly interesting questions around technical and cultural and policy questions around a variety of things that are going on, particularly in Japan. Obviously with MSRA, we've got a pretty good grasp of things that are going on there because we've got a large research group on site, and we know how things are going there. But in Japan, we're really sort of suffering. So as a result, we have been seriously considering bringing a Japanese representative on board. We are down pretty close to, I wouldn't say a final choice, but a pretty short list of people that we're thinking of bringing on board. And I just wanted to toss that out there and get some feedback from you folks as to what you think about that. I mean, this is something that we're really running headlong into from a problem situation on not understanding how to address some of the concerns, both on the policy and a security perspective and technical perspective with Japan. And just wanted to throw that out there and get some.
But why do you single out Japan? Or is that Japanese person supposed to represent all of the concerns of all of Asia?
No, they're not. No, not at all. We are singling out Japan because our problems right now are most acute in Japan with regards to...
I mean, so why is that why does the board have... Why is the board responsible for responding to those acute problems?
I don't know that you
were... to Microsoft.
Well, no.
To the acute
Trying to say,
problem.
Jeanette, it sounds like a personal problem to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is.
And then the board is supposed to, like, smooth things over?
No,
I mean,
no, absolutely not. No, it's...
If the presence of Microsoft is mainly in China,
Right.
it seems more...
Can you say a bit more? I mean, is it that you feel like you don't understand some aspect of Japanese policy issues? Or
Yes, that's part of it. Part of them are technical issues. To be honest, sometimes policy drives their technical priorities, and you know, we do have much better visibility into Asia because of MSRA, or into China specifically because of MSRA. We don't have that visibility into Japan. And that is to say, if we bring someone in here that starts to understand some of the issues that we're running into and some of the policy decisions that we're making, not only can they contribute back to some of the things some of the product and policy decisions that we're going to make to say yes or no, this is not going to fly, or it will fly in, you know, a larger, in Japan, which Japan is a very...
So you're saying Japan represents a larger market share than, say, Korea or Taiwan or something like that. I'm trying to actually understand the rationale,
right?
And rather than my trying to guess at the rationale.
Well, no, I mean, if I wanted Korea, or the other thing that I'm wrestling with.
If you change that slide to see Japanese board representation, would that have? Is that the topic as opposed to Asian board representation?
Yeah, well, potentially, yes. I mean, it turns into a situation. I don't think we're necessarily wedded to Japan, but at the end of the day, it turns into a situation where we felt we have reasonable insight into China. So that was bringing someone from China onto the board would not necessarily give us any greater depth of knowledge as to some of the issues that they were seeking. Bringing someone in, the other thing that we did not want to do and the reason why I was bringing it to the board's attention was the notion that at some point this goes from being a board into being a conference or into a colloquium, and we don't want to do that.
That's right.
So, Fred.
So, the way we have in the past put people on this board,
Elevating them to the board.
no, we haven't integrated very many. We started out with putting people on. Was based on their technical expertise. We thought of this board as a technical board, and it might be computing, it might be law, but you were here because you had some level of technical expertise.
Absolutely.
I expect that has to continue.
Absolutely.
And if it happens that there are people who have to fly 14 hours to get here from that direction, I hope that's right, that's okay with me.
Right.
But I think the discussion of representing Japanese viewpoint versus a Korean viewpoint is not the main discussion. I think the main discussion is
a technical one.
You have a list of people. You haven't shared it with us. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But I don't think I'd like you to just unilaterally decide on someone unless we have some basis to believe they are at the same level as the people in this room who are kind of at the top of the field. We're not going to have a Japanese representative because it's Japanese.
Right. There's another way to say it, and that is, I don't think it would be right to put a Japanese board representative on this board just because there is not enough knowledge and expertise in Microsoft about Japanese culture. That just seems to be wrong.
No. Yeah, I'm presenting this wrong. This is definitely not something that is political in nature.
That's why I was trying to get the rationale.
If we're not going to put someone in here who may be the right political person but not a good technical fit. I mean,
now that's answering Fred's comment,
right.
And I completely agree with what Fred is saying, but I'm saying something different.
Okay. Martine.
In other words, if Microsoft needs to learn about Japan, don't use the board as the way to learn about Japan.
Right. Well, again, True. We do have other initiatives that are going that are. This is not the sole means by which we're going to figure out how to work with the Japanese. There are other initiatives that are afoot, not in Microsoft Research, but elsewhere that are hoping to address those issues. Martin?
I think we're getting you derailed, and it'd be nice to have a longer discussion of this if you like sometime, and we can talk about the people you have in mind if you're willing to share that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not a secret. I mean, at this point, it's just what we're trying to do is take a look at the same criteria that we used when we selected you folks. I mean, there's technical criteria. There are sort of broader contextual knowledge that you folks have, and we're trying to reconcile those needs with, and then overlay that onto a series of Japanese researchers and see what comes out the back end. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But we are running into some situations with regards to, specifically with Japan. Korea is an issue, but Korea is not quite the issue that it used to be for us. Scott and Peter and a lot of folks over in the TWC group has taken care of a lot of some of the concerns that they have had.
Yeah, it sounds to me that there's concern that we're approaching it kind of backwards. When you talk about the issue, if it's not a technical issue, what is that?
Well, there are technical issues. I mean, there's double byte character issues. I mean, there's a variety of things that we just generally don't understand. And so given that, and again, given that in many of those countries policy rules the roost, regardless of what the technical thing is, or what the technical problem may be, what we're trying to do is find something that gives us a little bit of insight into both. And so, not to beat a dead horse, but that's just something that we've been thinking about. We hope to make some sort of decision with regards to this between now and the next meeting. So, the next board date is following Faculty Summit, and for those of you that have your calendars in front of you, the Faculty Summit will be during the week of July 18th. Actually, I think it starts on the 17th, on that Sunday previous.
Are we on the same page? I think we decided to divorce the two.
What's that?
I think we decided to divorce the board meeting and the faculty summit.
We did?
Decided the board meeting was first meeting in August.
Okay, you have the next board meeting then, and I'll be interested to hear how it goes.
What? What are you talking about?
Okay. Let me back up here a bit. I was under the impression.
We're starting on a good note, aren't we?
Yeah, and moving right along, let's talk about.
Good job blowing up the crowd for
Good
Paul.
thing
Yeah.
Sal wasn't in the room.
Let's talk Longhorn. No, I was under the impression that we were sort of locking the board meetings to the events. If we wish to decouple, I am more than willing to, take a look at that.
Provided that you don't change the dates.
No, I'm fine with changing the dates as well. It just turns into a situation where, from a convenience factor, and we had heard from at least various people that they didn't like traveling 3 times as opposed to 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Some folks liked coming to the faculty summit, some folks don't. So, open to discussion. You take off that Wednesday,
I think this is fine.
You think what is fine?
I think if you want to, if the scheduling works out and that it's next to the faculty summit and people can come.
Deidre Morissette and I at least have commitments.
Well, we can
that-
discuss possible dates, and if it
that
works out it's next to the
intersect.
faculty summit, that's
Right.
fine. But the fact that it's next to the faculty summit in itself is not a minus; it's a plus.
And that was what I was trying to go to push towards, was sort of the convenience factor, because people don't like traveling multiple times out to Redmond or something like that. But I am willing to open that up to discussion. So
Dave, let me just say, I mean, absent some compelling reason, it seems to make a lot of sense, rather than to have 2 meetings 2 weeks apart that drag everybody out to Microsoft.
If we don't do it then, I would suggest pushing it to September or something like that, because
there's always been sort of the timing issue with regards to it, because there's between this meeting and the next one, there's actually more than a 6-month period in there. And so I'm actually okay with considering moving it around. But again, I was just trying to meet mob rule here with regards to keeping the amount of travel to Redmond minimized as much as we could.
yeah.
So I took.
I also agree that in principle, it makes a lot of sense for convenience of reducing travel. But it sounds like Fred or Deidre can't make it. So,
Well, I'll tell you what I'm more than willing to do is I will go out and we can do a number of different things. In the past, we've sort of taken a look at our schedules and tried to figure out where there were blank spots, and then go from there. And I'm more than willing to revisit that as well. So, any other thoughts?
The only other one that comes to mind is doing it at the end of the preceding week, if that's more convenient for Fred and Dirtry,
yeah, that'd be fine too.
since the faculty summit starts that Sunday.
Mm-hmm. So do it, yeah, Thursday, Friday, or something like that.
I'm not in favor, but
Okay. Yes, it is a potential solution to that. Okay, that's fine. I mean, again, the ultimate goal here is trying to please as many people as I can at once, and as I...
Just to throw another little spanner in the ointment,
Oh, good.
July the 20th is MGB.
Oh, yes, exactly. Right.
Kind of means that it might be a nice board meeting, but there'll be nobody here.
Nobody here? Yeah, from a Microsoft perspective. Okay. Back to the drawing board then. With regards to that, maybe we can look at something a little bit earlier. MGB is a big drag in terms of getting the right folks into the room for discussions and things of that nature. So I'm willing to table the date right now and then go back and chat with you folks as to potential. Yes, Dick.
Can you do that as soon as possible?
At the end of this meeting, I'm more than happy to do that. I'll send out the mail and we can start going from there. The problem that I found out was the first meeting, as you recall, me trying to reconcile the schedules of 19 academics was somewhat problematic. So, but no, that's fine. So we will, it sounds like we may have to decouple. So given that, it winds up being how far in front or behind. So
What is this MGB thing?
MGB is the Microsoft
Global Business.
Global Business Briefing.
Sales and Technology Conference.
Yeah, so people like Scott need to go there and say, this is the strategy for the next year with regards to what we're doing with TWC, and I imagine Peter will have to do some things, and a lot of folks. It's a quasi-sales, quasi-technical briefing for the field force, and it's usually held out of town. So,
If it's someplace cool.
is it Atlanta this year? What's that?
If it's someplace cool, maybe we could go.
Atlanta in August isn't cool.
Not cool. Yeah, not cool. Not in the least.
In any sense.
The last thing that I wanted to sort of touch on here was regards to the 20-minute rule. There are a lot of things that we're talking about over the next couple of days that we wanted to get in because of a timing perspective, and therefore I would like to make sure that Fred has his whip out and oiled with regards to the 20-minute rule on when people are coming in and speaking, if you can give them the 20 minutes to at least get their point across before we start peppering them with questions, that would probably be a good thing to make sure that we try to stay as much on track as we possibly can. So with regards to the schedule, you've already seen initially what we've been talking about. First up this morning will be a Longhorn security overview. Paul Leach, who is an architect in the SBTU, will be coming in and talking about what our Longhorn security plans are. He will go for roughly an hour and 15 to an hour and 1:15 to 1:30, and then we'll have a short break, and the second portion of that will be talking about Internet Explorer. So given that we wanted to be able to, I don't think it's probably reasonable to talk about one without talking about the other, so we're trying to get both of those in during this session. After that, we will take a short break to grab some lunch and then go into the discussion of the Common Language Runtime Security Architecture Overview. You'll note most of these subjects that are on here are subjects that were as a result of your last feedback on things that you wanted to see. Some of them were priority 1, some of them were priority 2, so we tried to mix them up a little bit and try to get as many priority 1 pieces in there and some priority 2s as much as possible. CLR was a priority 2, but it seemed to make sense. Then at 2:15 or 2 o'clock we'll have a break. 2:15 we will have Jeff Friedberg come in and talk about the SDL and his integration of the Microsoft Privacy Standard into the SDL. At 3:45 we are cut loose for TechFest. There had been some discussion about whether or not we should use that time for something else, but we got the message loud and clear that people like to go to TechFest, so therefore we're going to TechFest.
I heard booth 111 was really spectacular.
That's the one that can get into it.
Booth 111. Yeah, that was a good one. No, which one is that?
Color told me. It's a new display.
Oh yeah, that's the high contrast display is good. Play table is good.
We can't see play table.
You can't see play table.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. So you can sort of look at people looking at play table.
Yeah, great.
But there are a lot of really cool demos and things going on at the Tech Fest. So I will spend part of my time over there with you. I'm getting yanked into another meeting, a brief meeting that I have to attend, but I will be over there as well. At 5:45, the bus leaves the conference center to take you folks back to the Hyatt. And then after that, you'll get some downtime to check your mail, chill out, do whatever you wish. And then dinner will be at 7:30 at Daniel's upstairs, which is in the building directly adjacent to yours in the high-rise up at the top of the 21st floor. Day 2, we will be talking about identity management. A lot of you folks have been wanting to know what our identity management story is evolving into, and we will have Kim Cameron, who is an architect in the identity management team, to come over and give us an overview of what's going on there. We will take when I originally looked at this schedule and vetted it with a few of you, there was the definite desire to make sure we had that 10:45 break for bio and other reasons. Otherwise, I had this like 2.5-hour long block of identity management, and I wanted to split that up a little bit. After that, we'll take an hour for lunch. And then the final session of the day before you go into the closed session will be an overview from Jason Garms, who is an architect and a group program manager in SBTU, about our antivirus and anti-spyware, malware plans and what we've done up to this point. So if you have questions about things like Pelican and GCAD and Sabari and Giant and all of that kind of stuff, hopefully this should weave those efforts together and give you a little bit of an idea of what we're thinking about there and where some of those technologies may filter into our product or our technology endeavors here. As usual, if you need any help, you can either get a hold of me or Noelle. Noelle is back from maternity leave, so I have an able right hand here. And beyond that, are there any questions or comments or things of that nature with regards? Yes, Fred.
It might help put this in perspective if there's a 5-minute update about what's happening to NextGov, this next generation secure computer base. Where does that sit? That's not part of the Longhorn effort?
No, it is not.
So can somebody say something about where we think that is? My first question is there somebody in the room who can say something about where it is? And then my next question is, would they?
So,
Knock yourself out, John.
so if the, I don't think we use this name externally, but the hypervisor Eric is building is being combined with stuff Peter is building, and that's called Unity. But
so Unity
replaces NSCO.
Okay.
Now that doesn't really tell you a whole lot.
No.
But that's.
And it's still planned to be a product someplace.
That's.
Oh, okay.
But much further.
I don't know how much further. Certainly not Longhorn. Hypervisor is nowhere near Longhorn, as far as I know.
And we heard about something called Unity.
Yeah, you heard about hyper. Yeah, you heard from Paul and from Marcus.
That's
and
it.
From,
Okay.
yeah.
But is this just a Microsoft only thing, or is it still sort of in collaboration?
Well, the hardware support for it is in collaboration, but there's no collaboration over the software. There's some talk. I mean, there are talks about collaborating on hypervisors, but that's had nothing to do with this.
Okay, great.
So.
And Peter can deny anything I just said. But I think it's true.
One other thing to note.
Oh, if they were going to bring in Praxis or anything like that to do this more formal verification?
I think that went away.
I haven't. I think that their attention is not on that right now. There. Yeah. You're saying something more. I'll talk to you a little bit after.
So with that, I guess we can open it up to any sort of general questions or discussion or commentary that we may have. One other thing that I would like to mention is that every one of the folks that will be presenting has been given the preferred method of interaction with you folks, that is to say being able to state who they are, where they're from, what their problem is, whether or not this is informational in nature or what have you, and so you can get a good sense going out of the door what they're hearing, what their problem sets are. Beyond that, any questions, comments, thoughts that we should be addressing at this point? Martin?
You have a few spare minutes now, since it's nowhere else on the schedule. Perhaps you could tell us a bit more about the possible Japanese representatives so we can talk about them tomorrow afternoon in our separate session and just give you feedback at the end of the meeting.
Sure. The one that now, mind you, this is something that I'm having to work with MSRA on and I'm having to work with a variety of other folks on, but the one that leads the discussion, so to speak, is a gentleman by the name of Akinori Yonezawa at Tokyo University.
That makes sense.
So for the, how many people here know of? Okay. No. Okay. Any thoughts, questions? With regards to his feasibility, so to speak.
Just off the top of my head, and very frankly, he's intelligent. He's very well connected. He leads a big effort in security. He doesn't have a huge track record in this field, however. Mm-hmm. So that would be the only thing that would be possibly a weakness.
Second that. Again, I would like to bring it back to the whole thing. Tell us the technical area you're trying to cover, then let's go to the personality issue.
The technical, well, to be honest, it's my understanding that a lot of what he does is already in many cases already overlapped by the expertise that we have here, but it's sort of the double bite issue and some of those technical issues around some of the character sets and things that they're doing that are technically puzzling to folks in the dev groups and to some of the other groups around campus.
So give us a specific example of one of your issues that you see it's important to have a Japanese person on this board to help you solve, rather than to get some internal expertise about the Japanese culture that can then help the devs deal with these issues.
Well, to be honest, I'll have to talk to MSRA about that kind of stuff, because for me to sit there and speculate as to what the double bite. Thank you. No, I rather than speculate, I would rather actually get some visibility into that kind of stuff. It's been raised to me as a concern. Therefore, again, I'm the messenger as opposed to the message itself.
If I might add something to what I said, off the top of my head at least, I can't think of someone more suitable. So that's something to be said for him.
Okay.
At least off the top of my head. So.
It's been hard for us. I mean, because the need, whatever the need was, it was brought to our attention. We've got problems. We need to figure out how, who we should be engaging with to get a better understanding of what these problems are and how to achieve those. The problem set, I will go out and try to figure out what that problem set is. Given that, then, it turned into a situation of, okay, trying to find the appropriate person, because it's been my experience that with regards to the Japanese research community, they've been they're in many ways very insular with regards to some of the research they do, and a lot of that's driven by corporate research, and so not a lot of stuff gets published. So it's been, in many cases, you break out the divining rod and you try to go out there and try to find people of talent that may have some insight into this kind of stuff. So Yonezawa has sort of surfaced as the person at this point that seems to most closely fit the bill. So, and that hasn't been something that I've been doing. That's been something that has been going on with basically MSKK, MSRA, and a few the National Technical Officer for Japan and things of that nature. So I can definitely go out and figure out what the problem set is and go from there. But any other thoughts, questions about Yonezawa that anyone may want to? Well, let me put it this way. If you have things that you would like to say privately, I'm more than happy to listen to those as well. I don't know if there are any things private that couldn't be aired out in public anyway, but please go ahead. Peter.
This just might be coming from a different background. The idea that you'd have that in some ways we're a group of issue spotters for Microsoft to see combine security, privacy, technical, but also implementation issues. And so having people from different geographic areas with different areas of expertise seems like a plausible desideratum. Seems like something you'd probably want to have. And so
it was a primary goal. You know, we want to make sure, because the other thing that we had, the problem that I constantly fight is the country manager from country XYZ saying, you know what, I'd really like to have someone on the board.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. And then they go yell at me, and then the country manager yells at me, and then I go tell to Scott, and Scott tells them to go, you know, there's a method behind the madness. But yeah, there is definitely, we do want to try to achieve a little bit better geographical distribution, because when you take a look at it, we are very heavily North American based, or United States based. Let's be straight.
He didn't help.
Yeah, I know. I had a much better European representation until she went to Purdue, and then it was like, all right, well, game over there. So now I've got these two, and it's like, okay, so my European representation is shrinking here as well.
Really strengthened your important Indiana representation.
Oh yeah, by God, let's play that Indiana angle here. So, that may be something else that that going forward we'll have to look at as well. Is people are mobile, and they do go from place to place and country, and we may have to take a look at some point about rejiggering to get a better European representation as well. Now, obviously, we haven't thought about Latin America. We haven't thought about Africa. We have, but at that point, most of the issues that we've been hearing from those folks are issues that are generally taken care of by the issues raised by this board. So we thought
I
that's
have no
fine.
objection to making the board more international. Just
Well, but the thing is, you don't want to make it international just to make it international.
right.
So, it's got to be something where so we're wrestling with all these issues. Scott and I have talked about it on a number of occasions, and it is a goal to make sure that we are sort of geographically dispersed while not having 15 people that are crypto experts sitting in the room at the same time telling us, well, you got to apply crypto to that problem, so. Although we do have 15 people, well, nevertheless. Mobile code, So, yes.
It seems like we probably have most of the major technical areas covered. What we might not have covered is the particular aspects of privacy law in some region or country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and the discussions that we've had with regards to geographical manipulation as well. Many of the concerns that we have been hearing, at least from the EU, for example, are not necessarily technically driven, they're policy driven. So, there's been some discussion about, okay, if we're going to bolster the privacy aspect of the board from Europe, who would we do, who would we talk about, and who would we bring in line? And actually that might be a good work item for the board, is to try to figure out who the movers and shakers are in Europe. On both a policy perspective. I think we've got a fairly good sense from a technical perspective, but on a policy perspective, we're sort of tapping along in the dark. Not quite to the degree that we are in Asia, but pretty close. So
the problem might, particularly in Asia, around the privacy front, is that pick any country you want and it's different. So it is almost impossible to get a company.
In order for companies to do business in the EU, they must employ lawyers or policy people who have a good overview of all of that, so there must be people like that.
No, there is. But the big difference between the EU and Asia is that there is a directive which at least provides some guidance to member countries' legislation. In APAC, we've got arguably the APAC privacy framework, but it's certainly less evolved as a kind of certainly not a mandatory standard at this point in time.
And some of the privacy people have experience with a lot of the other countries.
right. So yeah.
I mean, that's in a way the logical area to look at geographical dispersion, because the technical issues are pretty much the same as far as I can see around the world, but the privacy and policy issues vary enormously, and the cultural issues. So it's kind of, from my perspective as a more technical person, it's the less technical areas where you need particularly some different viewpoints.
Yeah, that's the discussion we've had around here. There's not necessarily, Canadian security issues and, American security issues and British security issues. There's security issues. Either it's right or it's not right. In situations where, particularly with things like double byte characters and stuff like that, if there is sort of a Japanese flavor of security issue, maybe that, that might bubble its way to the top. But yeah, most of the discussions that we've had have been not so much that the technical issues wouldn't be covered by this, but there's some, but a lot of it has to do with policy insight and things of that nature as well. So.
There is a somewhat different technical context, right? The Japanese have spam on cell phones, which we don't see so much.
Right. Well, and Docomo and a variety of NTT and a variety. There's just sort of different structural things going on over there that we may not have as much insight as we need to as well. So I mean that is sort of the basis of what we're talking about. But I will go out and do the due diligence and talk to the folks to find out what the technical issues are that they're looking to have solved. And then once we get that, I'll present it back to you folks and make sure that we're getting that covered. And then we will also talk about who the appropriate candidates might be for that position. Any other thoughts, comments? Well, let's move faster than that.
Can I raise just a non-business issue? I don't seem to be able to get wireless connectivity, and I'm not the only one.
They're working on it.
We're working on it. Yeah. No, it's something where the.
It's up now.
Oh, is it up now?
It's up, but you don't get a local ad. You don't get an address.
You don't get them out.
Okay, so MSR Sub is aware of it and they're working on it.
If you want bars, you're doing okay, but if you want to really do something.
Got a hell of a signal, just no ability to do anything with it. Yeah, no, the MSR technical support guys are aware of it and are working on trying to get that squared away at this point. We would want you to be able to, read the drudge report and all that. So.
I guess I just can't help but think that tomorrow afternoon we could have a tighter schedule than,
meaning
we could shave some time off that.
What's that?
Well, I'd be surprised if it's.
Well, I did parse that we usually have 2 hours for you guys to talk, about and debate and what have you. And we did shave that by an hour and a half.
Oh, you usually have,
or half an hour, excuse me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, well, if we're going to have a break and then have a discussion. Okay, that was just a comment. I wouldn't be surprised if things go faster than that.
Yeah, well.
Well, it's possible that we might want to call you in at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, that happened last time too, and we do remain
people
flexible.
Can be on board, on call, and get home earlier.
In principle, I think I like the idea of the Japanese presentation. On the other hand, I was looking at the agenda for today and tomorrow, and I was trying to identify would the person from a different geographical area have something significant to contribute to the different agenda items we cover, or if a specific agenda item is created only, let's say, to emphasize the Japanese representation, would the remaining of us would have something meaningful to contribute.
Right. Yeah.
So just take it as an input. I'm not, in principle, I support the idea. I was just thinking from this viewpoint.
No, you're right. I doubt we'll ever get to the point where we present, the, I don't know, Bahama security issue type thing and have everyone, go on about their business while we bring, someone in and only discuss that particular security issue.
No, we'd actually have to go there.
Yeah, we'd have to go investigate. That's true, but I'll work on that.
I think in general, since you said our contracts are expiring and we're basically all free agents, I think it gives you a chance to rethink the board from scratch, right? It gives Microsoft an opportunity to think what value has this? I'm ready to be fired. I'm expecting it. What value have we supplied? And
well, again,
what changes would make it better? So I think we ought to just not think about Japan or the Bahamas or Amsterdam. We ought to think about the board in general, and this gives us a chance to reassess.
Well, those discussions need to take place as well, but those are probably. Probably best conducted on a one-to-one basis. It's for me to sit there and tell everyone I think you suck. I mean, they all know that anyway. But it's.
I think that the technical advisory board draft is usually held in July, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you all come up and hold up a jersey and then go on about your
Third
business.
round pick.
Yeah. I've got Jose Canseco's literary agent on this.
Do you? Yeah. Or write yourself a little tell-all. All the board members that are on steroids here. Okay, well, no, those are good points to take into account. And again, it's the reason why I wanted to broach this subject now is because we are starting to get some rumbling from Asia and from the Microsoft divisions and offices in Asia. Not so much where they feel the pressure. It's just they're getting to a point where they're just getting to a point where they need to have a better understanding. And to be honest, I would rather have the people from Microsoft that are in this room listen to their discussions and their issues rather than, no knocks to any of my sales friends, but I would rather have technically focused people and policy focused people listening to their issues rather than, you know, someone who just might happen to get assigned this type of issue from MSKK or wherever the issue may arise. So again, I will sit there and do some due diligence and then report back to you as to how to move forward on that. We have about 15 minutes. Any other questions, comments, thoughts that we should cover?
Should we take an early cut at figuring out the schedule for the July meeting? As people like
Sure.
This is great.
If you want to. July meeting, again, you know, we don't have at that point the, I wouldn't say handicap, but we don't have the break.
Why doesn't everybody send Dave their availabilities for July and August, and then you'll have enough. That's the most efficient way, in my opinion, to try to work this sort of thing out. And it seems like many people, well, we'll see. If a lot of people are free right before the summit, then that might be the right time, and if not, there'll be other times. Let me just, I guess I'll say something, and maybe the Microsoft people will close their ears for a minute. I have heard from people who were coming to this meeting after the summit that after N years, for some big N, the summit isn't quite so exciting, and it would be nice if somebody else from their department got to go. And that suggested that there are people who felt that decoupling the two was going to be better for their departments and for interaction with Microsoft. So
No, we've heard that too. I'll be honest, we've heard it too.
So the argument that it ought to be clicked right on the summit, I don't think is as strong as the argument that says it ought to be clicked right on to TechFest. And if we decouple, so there's a silver lining as well as a cloud associated with decoupling it. But it may be that having it very close would be to the advantage of those people who feel they need to go to vote.
From my perspective, there's no real there's no like monetary reason to have it, you know, necessarily. I don't.
Yeah, you save $50,000. I know that.
I do.
Well, you get them to pay.
Oh yeah. Well, them is me. Sorry, I've learned that really quick that what I used to think was my budget was all a fallacy all that time anyway. So no, it's not anything. The faculty summit group's in my group anyway, so there's no net savings either way. To be honest, I have no religion on the issue. If we want to keep it coupled, that's fine. If we want to decouple it, that's fine. I have heard that there are varying levels of value assigned to attending, and
well, I mean, there is an impetus now to rotate it within departments. I've seen that and heard that from your group. So, you know.
yeah, I don't know that was. I think that was more experimental than it was anything else. You know, if we experiment with bringing different people in, you know, do we get a different net outcome? And you know, that's not my bag. I'm involved with it peripherally. But I could go either way. So, but I will, if you guys can send me what your schedule availability looks like for July, say mid-July through mid-August, that would be a good thing. And if for whatever reason I can't come up with a period of time in there that doesn't fit or make sense, I'll come back to you guys and figure out what Plan B is and go from there. So.
Take a break.
Sure. All right. Well, we take a break.
You mentioned the personal email. I want to check it. Your email address.
As soon as this